All righty. Well, actually, let's share this first. Boom, boom. Go here. The one where my big old head is in the way, and then the class. All right. So, welcome to the highly requested thyroid class. With that being said, this is highly requested because a lot of people think it is the cause of their issues or could be, which it very possibly is. But I like to preface thyroid conversations with the chicken versus the egg. Did the thyroid cause your weight loss troubles, your health issues, or did your weight issue slash health issues cause the damage to the thyroid? We will jump into that. There are some cases where it's one or the other. I just would not be so quick to look at external factors as to where we are. Like think about it like this: if a healthy individual in a very healthy body composition, with great eating habits and exercise, what scenario, unless there was some sort of, and I'll talk about mold and that sort of stuff, but if there wasn't some sort of external environmental factor, why would that person all of a sudden develop thyroid issues, right? Now, some might have something undiagnosed from birth, which is not very common, but I want y'all to keep that in mind when you listen to this, because as people get diagnosed with more and more thyroid issues, they will look at the thyroid as the reason as to why they are where they are. But in fact, we'll come to find that because of how they are, they created a thyroid issue, which in turn compounded the effect. All right, so we're going to talk about pretty much everything you need to know about the thyroid that you need to know, right? Maybe a little bit more detail there. It should give you a little bit more peace and understanding of what's going on and hopefully some solutions. So we want to understand what the thyroid is, how it affects our goals, what the function of it is, all the hormones related, the gut thyroid axis, any thyroid related disorders, and then how to monitor your thyroid health and how to help it. Go ahead and add Nick. All right, sweet. So what is the thyroid? It is a small little organ right here in your neck. So the HPTA axis is the hypothalamus pituitary axis. Okay, so essentially there's a chain of signals, right, that ultimately signal to the thyroid and other things, like you have the axis which interacts with sex organs, right, which creates sex hormones. In this relation, we're talking about the thyroid. So from the hypothalamus, the pituitary, right, to whatever sort of organ that we're trying to communicate with. So that is important to understand how these things communicate one to one, because that allows us to break down where the possible issue is. Okay. So think of the thyroid as your body's thermostat, not just temperature related, but turning the fat burning on, the recovery on, the immune system, all these sorts of pieces. It is essential for pretty much regulating everything within the body. We mostly think about it when it comes to the metabolism, but because the hormones are so important, and there's a lot of things, for instance, your menstrual cycle is temperature related, right? Those sorts of things come into play and why the thyroid is so central to that. So what are the main hormones we're looking at here with the thyroid? So first off, what is a hormone? It is essentially just a signal that tells a certain cell to do something. So it sounds very, very rudimentary. The body is complex, but like how it does things is very, very simple. Like this shape goes into this shape, which changes the shape. And that's what these do, okay, on the cell piece. So TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. So it is a signal from the pituitary to increase the amount of production of the thyroid. So higher TSH means that the brain is telling the thyroid to produce more. Low TSH means, hey, let's slow things down. The thyroid creates two main hormones, T4 and T3. It's 90% T4, 10% T3. Now, why are those important? T4 does really nothing. It is the hormone that gets turned into T3. T3 is the actual hormone that binds to the cells that causes metabolic function, right? So it causes energy production and all that sort of thing. So again, just to bring this back up, Brain signals to thyroid via TSH. Hey, thyroid, make T4 and T3. Thyroid makes 90% T4, 10% T3. This 90% T4, think of it just as storage ready to go to create T3. And T3 is actually what gets produced, actually what attaches to the cell and makes things happen. Okay. RT3 is just reverse T3. It is another hormone that can take the place of T3 on a cell, that takes the spot of regular T3, but actually causes the cell not to produce energy. So think about it this way. If you're dieting extremely heavy and really long, your body's like, whoa, 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 we want to slow our metabolism down. Not only do I not want to produce as much T4 or T3, but I also want to make sure that it's not getting taken up. So it will produce RT3, reverse T3, to attach to where T3 would to slow it down. So instead of just not producing more T3, it creates a hormone that does it. So that's another thing we can look at. So where does the production happen? In the thyroid, but conversion, a lot of the conversion of T4 to T3 happens in the gut. Why is that so important? Because so many people with gut issues have thyroid issues, and so many people with thyroid issues have gut issues. That's why they're so intertwined. It is a synergy. So if you're not having, if you have poor gut health, that could be in leakage, extremely acidic environments, poor bacterial populations, those sorts of things, it will impact the conversion of T4 to T3. Now you have less T3 and your metabolism slows down, right? Same thing with estrogen, right? A lot of the estrogen is produced and or recycled within the gut and the liver. So if you have poor gut or liver health, that happens as well. This last piece, negative feedback loop. What is that? Think of it like this. If I am watering my plants, right? What is the signal that tells me to stop watering them when there's too much water in the grass or the plants, right? So God, that's a horrible example, but the hormone negative feedback loop works the same thing. It produces, then when it realizes there's too many, it makes less, okay? So what happens is brain tells thyroid through TSH, produce T4 and T3. When there's a lot of T3 and T4 in the system, that signals to the brain, stop sending TSH. So that's another thing that we can look at. So the thyroid in reality is simple, right? But it's understanding how these things come to play and what things affect what, which is going to help us here moving forward. So we talked about the gut thyroid connection a bit. Again, conversion of T4 to T3, right? Here's a big issue too. As your digestion slows, your metabolism will slow and you have higher estrogen, because with the slower digestion, stuff just sits there, right? And it becomes worse and worse and worse. The poor balance of your gut bacteria, so if you have overgrowth of bacteria that we don't want, or undergrowth, right? So SIBO is overgrowth, that is going to affect your T3 production. Again, bringing up the slow digestion, this is why stomach acid is super important. And I will always ask about stomach acid. Most people think they have high stomach acid or too high of. A lot of times, a lot of the acid reflux symptoms that they're facing is low. But what happens is with low stomach acid, you have less ability to break down the nutrients that you need, like iodine, zinc, iron, and selenium, which are all extremely important for the thyroid. Iodine is literally what T3 is made out of. Selenium helps the thyroid itself in its health. Okay, and obviously iron is extremely important, in zinc. So if you have poor digestion, you're now stripping, not only not converting more T4 to T3, you're also stripping the body of these essential nutrients, okay? Now, when I say here slower breakdown, more fermentation, what I'm saying is if you have poor digestion, slow digestion, or forced slow digestion, like for a GLP, Ozempic, stuff like that, is something to think of and understand. That food that goes through your system sits there longer. It ferments, it creates gas, and it causes bloating, causes pain, causes damage, causes leakage. And again, this again affects the thyroid. So most of the time, the way you eat and your health causes the damage to the thyroid. The thyroid doesn't really just wake up one day and say, I don't like you. I'm going to make your life hard. It is usually by the lifestyle habits that we have. Then once the thyroid gets damaged or slows down, it becomes hard to fix it without, completely fixing the gut issue. You can do both at the same time, but it does take time. So another piece, right? Large part of our immune system is in the guts. So poor gut health means you're getting sick, right? It's just plain and simple. You have most of the blood vessels, most of the smooth muscle, you have most of the receptors all happening in the gut. So what is leaky gut? This is extremely important. Okay. What happens is you have slow digestion, you have breakages within the gut. Your immune system activates to help fight this damage and inflammation that starts to happen. And your body will sometimes start to attack itself, right? And in turn, it will start to also attack the thyroid. So autoimmune diseases, all that is your body not recognizing its own cells and attacking itself. Okay. So leaky gut is essentially this high acidic or poorly managed gut situation, which causes permeation or opening within the actual gut itself, and stuff starts leaking out, and that causes inflammation, and the body starts to attack itself. That's essentially Hashimoto's is a big way. That's a big way it gets started. Okay, so again, because the thyroid and the gut are so related, these autoimmune issues can affect both of them greatly. So just to go over again, recap, poor digestion and gut health affects thyroid function. SIBO, again, bacterial overgrowth, specific bacterial overgrowth will cause gut health and thyroid issues. Okay. Bloating as well. I just want to take a second here. Bloating is not necessarily bad, right? You got to understand that there are bacteria, good and bad bacteria in your gut. As the food goes through your gut, right, these bacteria essentially eat this, right, and they create gases, and that creates bloating. So a lot of people think bloating is bad or farting is bad. It's not. It's natural. It needs to happen. You should be farting and you should be bloating a little bit, but it is extreme distension and pain and consistency and just not sitting well with everything. That is where bloating becomes an issue. Same thing with your stool. Like poop, you're supposed to poop, but when you have like super watery poop or runny poop or extremely hard, well, that's not really going to be a gut issue more than it is maybe a hydration or fiber piece. But you're supposed to be pooping. You're supposed to be farting. You're supposed to be having these bloating episodes to an extent. Okay. A lot of these also could be sensitivities to food. So there's a difference between an allergy and a sensitivity, right? Gluten is the best example. Unless you have celiacs, you are not gluten intolerant. You might have a sensitivity to it, but you are not intolerant. So the gist of this slide is really just saying, again, it's hammering home how important, why we focus so much on the foods you eat and when, rather than just eating whatever you need to get your macros in, because you'd be causing a lot of damage, right? And understand that the gut is where you process the nutrients of what you eat. If you have a poor process, that means that the cells, your muscles, and everything are not getting what it needs. It's kind of like you put crap in, you're going to get crap out. If you put good in, good out. I always give the Ferrari example. You can have a Ferrari, right? And for all of you guys who don't know, different cars, the higher performance of the car, the more, let's say, better gas it needs. Matt, I know you know about this. If you put 85 octane, which is like a lower threshold octane for fuel, into a Ferrari, which needs 100 plus, it's going to drive, but you're going to just completely ruin the insides, and you're not going to get the most performance out of it. So same thing with your food. You are a Ferrari, everyone, believe it or not. I look at you guys as Ferraris. If you put 85 octane gas in your body, you can expect exactly what you would from that, and over time, it's going to continue to break down. So let's talk about a couple of the thyroid disorders, okay? Hyperthyroidism. That means the thyroid is overproducing, right? So think about like if you have excessive heart rate, you feel really hot all the time, like you're really anxious, you can't keep weight. Now, again, if you're just a hard gainer like that, you might just have a more elevated thyroid, but hyperthyroidism is like very extreme, number one. Hypo means your thyroid is underperforming, right? So in Hashimoto's, it was what I talked about earlier about where the autoimmune system piece happens, inflammation, and your antibodies attack the thyroid itself, like the actual thyroid, and so it just underperforms because it's smaller. Okay. For Graves, you have antibodies that mimic TSH, right, and create more of the T3 and T4. Okay. So you have low TSH because a lot of T4 and T3 is being created, but here's the problem: it's not actually T3 and T4, right? It's just it's mimicked, right? So and those TRAB and TSI are the antibodies for Graves. So where are all these random parentheses coming from? Anyway, blood work markers. What do we look at? TSH. We want to see what the level the brain is telling the thyroid to work, right? So, I think I was supposed to add the range, but regardless, I just want to give this little tidbit. You can fall within a range, be normal, not have it highlighted, but still have low or high TSH. Okay. Again, I say this anytime I talk about blood work. Reference ranges are simply a sample of an amount of population. Let's say I walk into LabCorp or Quest and I get my blood work. They create their reference range based off the last X amount of people, what they had, right? And it creates this like average, and this is what's normal. So if you can think about it, as people's thyroids get worse, as their gut health gets worse, and testosterone gets lower, right? That's why now the average testosterone for a man on the reference range is lower when it was way higher before, because the average of people is going lower. It doesn't mean that it's good to be that way. Okay. So TSH, free T3 and T4, because that is what is within the body that can be used. It's not looking at T3 itself, not free T3. T3 is bound. Like this is looking at all the T3 in the body. It doesn't really tell us anything. We want to know how much T3 is available for the body to be able to use. It's kind of like testosterone versus free testosterone. When we get our total testosterone check, it's all the testosterone that's bound to the muscle, bound to aromatase, which turns into estrogen. It's in the blood. It's all testosterone. That does nothing for us. We want to know specifically what amount of testosterone can be used to attach to muscle and make it grow, right? So same thing with this. We don't really care about what T3 and T4 is. We want to know what free T3 and T4 is. Reverse T3, also extremely important, right? We want to see, like, is a lot of T3, of reverse T3 being produced and slowing our metabolism down, right? Or is our metabolism slow just because we don't have a lot of T3 or T4? Again, very important piece. Last but not least, TPO, TGAB, these are antibodies that get created, and these are ultimately things to look for when it comes to autoimmune diseases with a thyroid, or not diseases, more sort of disorders. So let's talk about how we negatively affect our thyroid, okay? Surprisingly or not, crash and long-term dieting. This is probably one of the biggest issues I see, which is why a lot of individuals come to us already dieting, saying, "Oh, I'm stuck. I can't lose any more weight." And they've been yo-yo dieting for years and years and years. That completely, especially for women, destroys your thyroid, destroys it. So guess what needs to happen? We need to increase calories and carbohydrates to get the thyroid in check. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want to eat more because I'm trying to lose weight. Well, you can have one or two things happen. You can continue to feel like crap, not make progress, right, in the long term, or for the short term, we get you healthy and then we can attack it. It's the same in a mini example of that is for you all in fat loss phases that go into reverses. We get into a fat loss phase, we start losing fat, right? We're dieting, right? We're reducing carbohydrates, as it says here, in calories, right? As you can see, the thyroid starts to slow down, right? And then we don't want to get into a point where it causes damage. We don't want to keep dieting forever. We want to stop when we get to a certain point where, like, the juice is not worth the squeeze, work our way back up, introduce more calories, more carbohydrates, reduce the activity, and boom, thyroid's actually working even better than we started, and we can attack the fat loss again. Again, you cannot do this prolonged losing fat forever and ever, and you can't do this yo-yo stuff, like excessive yo-yoing, right? So like I crushed it during the week and then I suck in on the weekend and this and that, and then I want to lose weight, then I want to bulk, then I want to cut and all that. So I need to harp on this because 99% of people do this. They've been trying to lose weight for years and they've been really just taxing their thyroid over time, and it needs to be addressed and fixed. Nutrient deficiencies is a huge one too, okay? These are the list of a few vitamins and minerals that are essential for your thyroid. Again, it's not a blanket like some disorders, thyroid disorders. We cannot introduce extra iodine, for instance, or selenium or iron. All right, but if you're deficient in these, you're making a lot of your journey harder. That's why for most of y'all, you have this on your supplementation plan. So when that's written in your meal plans, and there's issues happening and you aren't taking those, this is a big piece because you're not going to be able to get enough of this in the diets that we're eating. Especially think about it like this. If you're eating less, you're probably getting less nutrients too, right? So yes, we're trying to attack fat loss, but now you're eating less food, you're getting less of these nutrients. Of course, like we had mentioned before, the gut function, okay? So poor gut health and low stomach acid is going to really affect this as well. High stress and cortisol, it's capitalized for a reason, okay? That suppression causes almost all autoimmune issues, even nerve issues like fibromyalgia. I said that wrong. Whatever. Fibromyalgia. There we go. um, Things like that. Okay. So the reason why stress causes issues is not just from a hormonal perspective. The body is always constantly in fight or flight, and it starts to attack itself because it doesn't know what's going on, right? Again, completely destroys your thyroid. So imagine you, and again, I'm going to highlight women because to be honest, 90% of the time I see it in women. Men, a lot of things are simpler for you and a lot of things are not. But for men, it's like, okay, your testosterone is low or it's high. That's it. Okay. If you have a thyroid issue, it's simple. It's more simple to fix. With women, right, with menstrual cycle, with your higher sensitivity to stress, etc., especially with the gut being extremely important for the estrogen processing, right? Like there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So a lot of times I get, the single mom or even just the mom or the careerist woman or whatever it is, right? Or we get them, who's just been trying to lose weight forever, but they're chronically elevated stress, going through a divorce, have kids who don't sleep, right? They're not happy. And it's like, what do you think the thyroid's going to do? It's not going to want to help you lose weight. It's like, I'm drowning, right? So this big piece here, I'm not a big conspiracy. Well, I entertain some conspiracies like the moon landing and stuff like that. But when it comes to like microplastics in your water and all that kind of stuff, I don't have a black and white like this is what you should avoid, this is what you should do. I would recommend you do more research on your own, but also don't get so into the weeds that's like, oh my God, I'm not going to like touch anything. Like, I don't know. I read a while back and it's still prevalent that like touching receipts, the estrogens within that can really mess you up. It's probably true, right? But there are a lot of environmental things that will cause autoimmune issues within the thyroid. I do think that is a big reason to why we have so many thyroid issues today is because of the environmental stuff. Mold is huge. This is actually one of the more serious things. You need to get your homes tested for mold. If you bought your home and it's required to have mold testing and it's been like 5 years, 10 years, you need to get your house tested for mold. Mold directly attacks the thyroid. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people who just over the years just felt worse and worse and worse. And like, they just couldn't explain it. And then eventually they get their house tested for mold when they sell it. And it's like riddled with it. And it affects you long-term. It affects your kids and everything. So I know that's like super scary, but it should be because you can't see it. And I'm not just talking about the little mold in the bathroom because you don't have the vents, but you need to take care of that. So pituitary issues, that's rare. So like things like tumors and all that, it is a factor, right? But if you have a tumor on your thyroid or the pituitary itself, it could cause issues. Again, I want to just emphasize that the long-term dieting, the low carbohydrate and caloric deficits and the stress. That's just, I'll keep going back, literally say this 5 million times. That is why 99% of people have this issue. And then it's tied into their poor eating habits and their gut issues. It's just, we can sit here and be, I don't want to say egotistical, or stubborn is not the right word, but we can be in denial. That's the right word. But ultimately, like sometimes we cause our own problems and it's okay. We're seeking help, right? And this isn't directed towards any of you all in specific. This class is going to be, is going to be shown to a lot of people. So if you're listening, just understand that it's okay. Now that we know, it's about fixing it that matters, because a lot of you all, 99% of you, didn't know any of this prior to. And I hope that this sheds some light into what you could be facing. How can we improve? A lot of this is 99% of it is pretty simple. But again, the second we start to take it seriously, that's when it starts to work. So assess dieting and dieting strategy. How are we approaching fat loss, growth phases, et cetera? It needs to be phased. That's why your coaches have you in a phase. And you can always ask your coach, what phase am I in? Right. So that's why we go through fat loss phase, growth phase, hold phase, reverses, et cetera, right? To help to stimulate the metabolism, keep it working. That's the biggest thing. Okay. Improve our gut health and digestion, of course. Like, and that's honestly the key to gut health and digestion is having a diverse diet. So I always say, like two different fruits, 2 different veggies, different colors. That's like a big one, right? Obviously hydration. It comes down to way less processed foods as much as possible. That solves a lot of issues, right? And then at the end of the day, the approach to your caloric deficit or surplus is gonna matter too. But like even bodybuilders who eat like me, like thousands of calories a day, I can develop some serious gut issues because I don't have, well, I do, but most people don't have a diverse diet. So they're just eating chicken rice. What does that do? You start to feed certain bacteria and that causes overgrowth, right? So sometimes it's good to eat the same foods all the time, but I would argue it's also not, because you want to have diversity in the diet and diversity in the gut flora, in the population, in the diversity of the gut bacteria. Overtraining, again, stress response. The thyroid is very sensitive to stress, as you'll see down a little bit more. Eliminate endocrine disruptors. So I put a little bit in here. I did do some research. I realized after this. So like plastics, like microwaving Tupperware, you reusing the same water bottle. Like you need like BPA free, and I forgot the other ones. Like there's a bunch of them. Again, you can get super in the weeds about this stuff. What other things are plastic related? Just anything that really plastic touches can cause that, right? Artificial fragrances. This is huge though. I haven't dug into deep stuff if like for instance like incense from like China or something, but like for instance like a lot of the disinfectants, the bug sprays, colognes and perfumes, they are huge on damaging the thyroid, like big time, big time, big time. And that's why I put household chem. So yeah, just different things you have around the body. I'm gonna check the chat real quick, just make sure there's nothing like there's an emergency or nothing. Okay. Feel attacked or about that too, candles and air fresheners. Yes. Sorry if you feel attacked, but that's good. That means we definitely know, Zoe. Not anything personal here. But yes, I can always try to do more research and find some stuff, but I would also urge you guys to take charge and find out what in your house causes these things. Stress. So guess what? We did a stress class. Now we're doing a thyroid class. It's all intertwined. It all deals with the gut. It all deals with the thyroid. Like, hello. All right. What else we got? Do's and don'ts. Man, I love this one. Stop taking random pre and probiotic supplements. Enough. And excess fiber. Did I put that in here? No. Look, so many people mess up their guts even further because like, oh, I'm bloating and I have these issues. I'm going to take, this prebiotic, probiotic. Understand this, okay? You have thousands of different types of bacteria in your gut and millions upon billions of that specific bacteria. Prebiotics are essentially the foods. We just got someone that entered this, so I'm going to redo my intro into this topic just because it's so important. Stop taking random pre and probiotic supplements. Okay, so we have a ton of different types of bacteria and millions and billions of each of those. Prebiotic is essentially the food for bacteria, whereas probiotic is essentially the bacteria itself. If you don't know which bacteria is causing the problem, why are you just going to throw random food out there or increase bacteria? Like this I get on my soapbox about this because it's the way you should approach all your fitness, right? That's why working with us, we can explain everything. We don't just give you something just to give it. There needs to be a reason why, right? Same thing, that doctors always upset me about because they just see a symptom and they give a medication. That's not the way it works. So if there's a specific bacteria that is causing this problem and we think, oh, well, we need good bacteria or just bacteria in general, or we need food for the bacteria. So I'm going to take this kombucha and this like whatever supplements, right? I might be feeding the wrong bacteria that creates overgrowth. That's why a lot of vaginosis is not the right word, but bacterial infections happen is because bacteria from the guts overgrows and goes into the vagina and creates this issue. Okay. So we do not want to be taking these things unless we have done a GI map or have an understanding or test the bacteria that is in the body that is causing this. We do not want to just randomly take stuff. Same thing with fiber. Fiber also feeds bacteria. So if you're having digestive issues, don't just start dumping triple the fiber in there because you're probably going to make the matter worse. Random changes in diet. Don't just have bloating and whatever issue that you think you have and then just change your whole diet. We need to look at specific things, right? It's all about nailing it down, and it takes time, but once we figure it out, we do. A lot of people just take such an extreme 0 to 60 or 0 to 100, and it completely wrecks them even further, okay? Pointing specific things without guidance, exactly. Like this random TikTok about, who's like the Paul Saladino or like Gary Brecka or whatever, like they give you this idea to like suntan your balls or whatever, like, and you do it, like, okay, but like, have you thought of maybe why they're pushing that kind of stuff or where this stuff comes from or this specific supplement? There's a lot of times there's financial backing to this. not calling out anyone on who's watching this call, but I just want to use this as an example. I got asked like if this specific menstrual slash hormonal supplement which helps regulate periods is beneficial, and it was really expensive. It was really niche. It was natural, organic, but the supplement was bovine, which is cow, ovary, liver, kidney, whatever. It was just literally beef organs in a capsule. And obviously it gets sold as like, oh my God, this will fix your PMS symptoms and etc. because you're eating the ovary of a cow. So obviously it's going to make your ovary better, right? It's that stuff over there that just gets so gimmicky and sold so strongly that we're trying to avoid you guys from having. There might be good stuff. There's plenty of good stuff out there, but like, let's have a conversation, okay? Again, and the reason why I brought that up is like, you don't think about it this way. I don't like eat chicken thigh and then grow bigger quads. So I'm not going to eat a chicken liver and my liver gets bigger and better, right? So if I eat cow ovary, if I'm a woman, I'm not going to have a healthier ovary. It doesn't really work like that. There are some specific things that could, but not in that range. Random fast. That also means skipping meals, okay? That causes thyroid dysregulation and dysfunction, okay? So again, that's why we harp on consistent nutrition, right? So it's not even just like you need to eat 17,000 times a day. No, that's not it. It's just the consistency is a big, big piece. Binging also, again, I always say this. Your thyroid is the thermostat, right? Let's say it's one of those like old school, like I think it's mercury in there, right? The little red thing, and you see it in movies all the time. So if you were to take a fire and put it under the little ball of mercury, it doesn't just automatically shoot up and match it, right? It takes time. It heats up, it goes up, 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 up. But you've already added that fire. So this fire is a bunch of binging of food or fasting, right? It takes time for the thyroid to adjust, and you could also over adjust. It could shoot up because of the temperature. You took the fire away, but the heat is still there, and the thyroid is still shooting up, and it breaks the glass, right? So what I'm saying is these extremes cause a lot of issues, right? So what are the do's? And again, for all those that you jumped in, this class is just fire. So when I upload this, I suggest you all watch from the beginning. But thank you so much for joining. So what should you do? Blood work. I recommend blood work. Again, either you have insurance and hopefully it's covered, or if you need to go privately, Katie and I have a ton of different options for you. So you can always reach out. And I literally have a video breaking down exactly how to do it. But getting your blood work at minimum twice a year until issues show. Once a year is okay. It's better than nothing, but I always say twice a year. And then if you have issues, it's going to be as needed. For instance, if we see that there's a thyroid issue, for example, we see that you have hypothyroidism and we're making changes, it might be important for us to get blood work more routinely and more frequent, so that way we can see what those changes are doing, right? But if there's no issues, yeah, I would say twice a year, or as extreme things happen. Okay, a GI map is extremely useful. It's essentially a map of your gastrointestinal system and shows you what bacteria is where, what's overgrowth, what's undergrowing. Okay. Elimination diet. When I say do, it's something that we can do. Don't do it on your own. But essentially, this goes back to the random changes in diet. If there's something it's a process of elimination. If there's something that's bothering our gut, we want to figure out what it is. There are some obvious things that will cause issues, and then there's some that are not so obvious. So again, that's why eating consistent during these times is important, because we can pick and choose what we need to take away and put in to make it happen. Okay. So that is the end of this thyroid class. I hope this was presented in a way that is understandable for you. What I want to do now is open up again Q&A. Any questions related to this class or anything at all? And lastly, I want to say again, if anyone felt like this was personal, take it as a compliment or not a compliment, take it as a positive that you've gotten the information that helps you understand exactly what's going on. If anyone didn't know anything here, feel free to ask me more questions. All right, so what do we got? Let me check the chat. And you can ask in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever you want. Oh, laxatives when you don't need them. Yeah, thank you, Katie. That's a big one too. All right, let me talk about this real quick while you guys are thinking about questions. Um, there are a lot of things that affects the stool, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, just because you're pooping or not pooping doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. There's a lot of things that affect that. Same thing with the gut issues. So you forcing a poop when there's not when there isn't poop there or isn't water there or enough fiber to make it happen, you're making things so much worse because you're causing a lot of this gastrointestinal movement, right? And you're forcing things, and that's going to cause a problem. Okay. Can you just be broken? Again, I will say that the mentality of, hey, something's wrong with me just because it takes away responsibility from your actions and what input you have into that. So I always take everyone's comments seriously at first, and then just in case you are serious, but I always say, like, your body doesn't hate you. Your body doesn't have a brain. Your body just responds to what you do. So the second we start to realize and start to have the language of, oh, there's something wrong because of things that I'm doing, we can fix it. But if we say, oh, it's wrong because it is, and nothing, then there's nothing you can do. Same thing, like it's all about taking responsibility, and it's not about a positive or negative, good or bad. Like if I'm driving and someone smacks me in the back, well, if I say that there's nothing I can do, it's all that person's fault. Well, that takes all the power away from me. But if I say, hey, there might be something that I did that caused that, I'm not going to tell insurance that, right? But I can maybe change how I drive or make things more safe in the future. Again, poor example, but ultimately, the second you say there's nothing you can do, you lose all power and you're just going to be stuck in that situation. So let's hit it. What are some questions we have on anything? At this point, I don't even get surprised that we don't get a question for a couple minutes because then you guys come up with bangers for like 30 minutes. So
I got a question, another question that's not so silly. So, like, you know how we've been doing like all my blood work and we've been like checking it out and stuff? Okay, so like all my stuff's fine. Could you still possibly have like an underlying condition, whether it be like a thyroid or whatever, your blood work's just not showing it?
that's a very good question. So I'll preface with this. Blood work is just a snapshot in time. It's just saying in that moment, like you could get your blood work taken and then like 30 minutes later, and like you can have a problem, right? So that's number one. Number two is it could be possible that there's more testing needed, or it could be just not thyroid related at all. Again, not everybody's created equal, right? So also someone's metabolism might be showing one thing and producing like the effect could be one thing. And so, like for instance, someone can have a thyroid that's producing X amount of hormones that should resolve with this, and they're fully normal, and someone else could not have enough. So it's all about investigating and continuing to look deeper and trying a lot of things. But at the same time, I will say it's very common that when I've worked through with issues with people that they've actually like once I start to dig in, I realize like for instance, like okay, we looked at the thyroid, we looked at the digestion, we looked at this, and this. I'm like, you know what? Show me what you're eating, and then I'll get pictures of the food and be like, oh my god, like you've been throwing like a tub of oil on your salads or like just been eating a ton of extra calories doing X, Y, and Z. Like no wonder it's your thyroid's probably fine, your metabolism is fine. It's just the eating habits are different. So there's different things to look at. Ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a solution, but we also have to be as upfront with it to make it work. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Or I can dive in deeper in a different direction as well.
No, that kind of answers it. It's just, yeah, never mind. We're good.
Okay, no problem. And if you have anything you want to continue to chat about offline, always feel free to message. So the mold in the home, is there a difference between the black mold and regular shower steam mold? It's so mold is bacteria. It's like a general name, but the actual bacteria differs. I am not going to pretend that I know what specific strain of mold bacteria causes that. I'm pretty sure the one that's just like, hey, like we don't have a vent. You know, a lot of countries like I'm staying here, they don't have a really good vent. That mold, like I still don't think you want to breathe it in, but I don't necessarily think that's so much of the issue. It's also how much mold. Like a little bit of mold isn't going to kill you, but like it's the mold that sits in the walls or like whatever in the framing, and that cause I think that's the issue. So blue cheese and moldy cheese, yeah, yeah, and exactly. Like we eat mold, right? Like or if you eat a dry aged steak, so it's not necessarily black and white. I think it's the amount, the exposure, and the specific bacteria. But very good question. Also, Nick, in the US, mold is without a U.
So, kind of like a random thought,
Yes.
could some of your health issues be like brought on by like animals, like dander from cats or dogs, or even like I don't know, the freaking desert?
I think environment does play a large role. So on specifically animal please, yeah, you might have a sensitivity or like it's not all diseases and things that animals have transferred to humans. Like for instance, like there's like bird flu and uh, you know, AIDS, conspiracy theory there. Um, sorts of there's a ton of different things that could be transferred to human, mad cow disease, etc. But it would be more so the what the animal's carrying. So I don't know that there's so much overlay. I think from like acute sickness, yes, but like I've been sick for 10 years because my cat just, dog eats its own poop and like sleeps in the bed. Like I don't know that extent, but it could make it a dirtier environment. So yes, health issues overall, yes. Specifically, organs, I'm not sure. I will say that the environment, temperature, etc., could a little bit. I think ultimately at the end of the day, overall stress, right? And managing the stress can cause a lot of issues in the long run. It's usually a stress in combination with diet, right? Because again, remember, stress affects the gut, right? So gut, thyroid, that axis is very, very strong. Can I have Katie's input too? Okay, so Katie, I'll answer this one, and then Kylie wants some input on warm up stuff. So, what warm up exercise do you recommend for lower body activation? Personally, for me, I like to mimic a lot of the movements that I'm going to be doing. So, there's two things that happen in a warm up. And I actually learned a great way to explain this the other day, and I love it because I trained with this pretty known guy. So first, you're trying to increase the amount of blood flow and body temperature, right, to warm up the muscles to get things more fluid. Okay, right. That also allows for more flexibility and mobility, right. The other thing that happens in a warm up set or doing warm up exercises. So think about this can get a little complicated and try to make it as simple as possible. When your muscles contract, shorten, and lengthen, what's actually happening is you have these little, think of them as hairs. They grab and pull, grab and pull, grab and pull. But it happens so fast in the muscle contraction, like they're grabbing, pulling, right? So when you do warm ups, right, especially warm up sets, like working up to the weight that you're going to work, you pre-cock these. So it's a shorter distance and they can fire off quicker. So like if I just go into a max bench press right away, it's not only just psychologically harder, but the muscles are not primed for it. So it's going to be harder for me to do it. Versus if I work up as close as I can to that weight, I get them cocked, ready to go, and I'm able to do it more. So that's why, again, I will warm up for the purposes of getting the blood flow in there, getting the body temperature up, and mimicking those movements to get those specific muscles warmed up. And then I will also do warm up sets to get those actin or those myosin heads, they're called, cocked. So that's my take. Katie, go ahead. Take it away.
So I'm not going to go as much into the science as that. I'm going to tell you what I do and why. So I always will start off with at least a straight up hamstring stretch where I am bending over and I'm stretching my hamstrings and then a deep squat just to like open up my hips. Besides that, my favorite thing to do before just about any like day is lunges, body weight lunges, walking or in place. It pretty much hits everything. It's going to get your joints really warmed up. It's going to get all of your leg muscles warmed up. And then if you're worried about glutes specifically, since I know that's like typically a thing that people can't feel and they're looking to activate, I used to do a lot of body weight kickbacks and the fire hydrants, and I recently started doing them again, and I kind of don't know why I stopped. I do just as much as like 3 sets of 15 to 20. It takes me just a few minutes. I do it like immediately after my stretches, and you'll get a pump from it. And it'll help you actually like feel your glutes. So lunges and just some light body weight stuff, maybe bands if you think you need it. You probably don't so much. You don't want to like overexert yourself before you go into your lift, but something light body weight just to get you moving and like kind of start to feel a little bit of a pump. Those are my favorite movements.
Awesome. Yeah, and I guess to be less scientific, what I do for my lower body days is I'll do like ankle rolls. I'll work my way down and then up. Then I'll do like single leg hamstring curls, like just really flexing the hamstring. I'll do those things where you like take your hip and circle it out, circle it in. So internal, external rotation. I like to do because my hips are really tight and my internal and external rotation is poor. You know where you like sit down like a butterfly, except I'll lay down on my back and do glute bridges to kind of like open up,
Mhm.
right? Little baby ones like that. So again, it's and then I'll foam roll. A big thing. Scientifically, it doesn't say that it helps. For me, it does because again, what foam rolling does is causes pressure and friction and causes more blood and temperature in there. And you can temporarily relieve some knots. Also, the massage gun, it's a temporary fix. It's not going to fix any like long-term stuff, but those things help. So also in the future, Kylie, if you have some specific muscles you want to talk about, reach out to me or absolutely reach out to Katie or Nick. Good question.
Yeah, you can hit me up over Instagram or WhatsApp, either way.
Yeah. Do you correlate physical stress with thyroid health? Absolutely, and I'll go into this. Like say I just did the best, most intense workout. Does it stress the thyroid? So not acutely, right? If you're in a healthy environment, your sleep is good, your nutrition is good, and you're healthy. Like just doing a hard workout is gonna, yes, it will suppress your immune system a little bit, and cause a little bit of inflammation and damage, but that's just normal. But chronic overtraining and stressful workouts when the body's already stressed. So I don't know, Zoe, if you watch the stress class, but I would because I talk about this thing called allostatic load. Think of it as your stress pie. Everyone has the same whole pie. Let's say half of it, and this is how much stress you have. Let's say half of your pie is family, husband, kids. Now you have 50%. The other 25% is work. So now I have 25% of this pie left that I can give stress to other things. Let's say I start working out, but that workout requires 50% stress, but I don't have 25, right? So you're working out so hard. That's why sometimes we need to take a step back. So it depends how much pie you have. So yes, for like a person who bodybuilds for a lifestyle, right? They can add a lot of stress to their stress pie from working out if their relationships in check, their work and whatever, because they're not so stressed. But like, you know, being a mom, a wife, and working and having, I mean, I don't know how women do it. That's why most of y'all have, unfortunately, these issues is because you guys have so much on your freaking plate, and then you don't fill your cup up because you're worried about other people. Yes, I'm getting on my soapbox right now because I see it all the time, and you sacrifice everything for them, and then you suffer, you suffer, you suffer, and then when it's time to put you as a priority, it's like, well, we got a big hole to climb out of. So yes, in the long term it would, but like working out intensely does not necessarily cause an issue, but also the amount that you work out. So not just how intense, but if you're working out for a long time, that's more stress and more stress and more stress that accumulates. Actually made a new gym friend. She wants to train. I'm used to going alone. How would I incorporate that in my sessions? Great question. So if you are within our program and you have someone who wants to train with you, I would always recommend to stick with what we're doing, right? Have them work with us. Again, everybody, it's hard to find a gym partner like Chance here, who's literally in the middle of the gym, who has the same strengths and weaknesses. Okay. It's hard to match that up. So one person has to sacrifice what they want to do sometimes for what the other. So I would say, like, because I'm selfish and you all are, I love you all to death. I'm going to say, I don't care what the other person wants to do. I want you to do what we want you to do because I care about you. I don't care about the other person. Now, if they decide to join the team, we'll have some competing interests there. But in a serious note, she has her own. Oops, sorry.
I was like trying to finish
Oh,
before you started answering it, but like she has her own coach, so she was already critiquing stuff that I was doing while talking to me, and I was
mhm.
already kind of like, I don't know if I want to work out with you.
Here's the thing. I don't. If someone's being coached by somebody, it's going to be hard for me to give them a recommendation because I want to respect their relationship. Um, because who knows? I could be wrong or that coach could be wrong. But like there shall at least be a conversation, right? I would say it's this is I absolutely would welcome to hear what those are because there might be some merit in that. Be like, oh wow, I didn't think that way. That's a great thing. Or I could be like, hey, yeah, this is not a good idea. But also at the end of the day, like one workout or two workouts here and there with somebody is not gonna like, even if it's wrong, it's not gonna completely crush you. I would really say like, hey, let's just do the same kind of exercise or whatever for that specific workout, but like, just listen and tune it out. So it's I like to train alone. It's hard for me to train with somebody. I have to have a lot of trust. And I think you're also someone who just likes to zone in. Sometimes it is good. Some people need to train with other people. I would just say it comes down to like, remember what's designed for you is what's best for you. But I'm also not closed-minded to think that there's probably things that I could do better or that we could do better, Nick and Katie and I. So always feel free to bring that up. Don't ever think like because someone isn't your coach, if they bring something up to you, you can't bring it up to us. I would just want that opportunity to sanity check it because again, some of the top bodybuilders in the world are idiots. I've talked to them, and not don't mean idiots like they're stupid people, just like their training philosophy and their science piece and what they say is not really rooted in anything. Doesn't take away from their success. But if I'm going to take what they say and give it to the average person, it's probably not going to be a good idea. Right now, I'm off work because torn MCL, day-to-day work schedule. When I get back to work in a month or so, my schedule's fucked working graveyard. Okay, off generally through 4 a.m. Is that going to fuck my metabolism up and bloating that I feel mixed? Okay, so I'm going to attack this a little bit. What I understand is off of work because of an injury. When you get back to work, your schedule now is going to be very different from the schedule that you're going to. So I can talk about this personally, and a lot of our service members can too, and especially me as a pilot, like when I was flying, going through different time zones. You always try to adjust your sleep and your wake ups slightly before that happens. So if like I'm off for a month and I know when I get to work, I'm going to go from literally night to day, that last week, maybe even a little bit sooner, I will every hour go to sleep a little bit later or earlier, however it works out, to slowly adjust, right? That'll help you because again, the body likes consistency. These quick flashes, it's not going to mess up your metabolism. It's just going to take a lot longer for your body to get adjusted. But if it's already messed up, it's going to make it worse, which specifically yours is not. So what I would say is the best that you can slow roll it and improve over time, and make it easier, the better. So if you're going from a normal shift to a graveyard, just start waking up later and going to sleep earlier. I think that's the way you do it. Or going to sleep later and waking up later, whatever it is. Over time to make that easier because also your hunger cues are going to match when you wake up and go to sleep. Everything is based off your circadian rhythm for the most part. So when you wake up to when you go to sleep, hormonally as well. So and then big thing with that too is if you're not working that schedule every day. So like let's say Monday through Friday you're working, not you or somebody who's working graveyard. You work the graveyard shift Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends you just wake up normal time, you sleep through the day. It really causes an issue there. It can be tough. So it sucks because your family's not working the graveyard, so you want to spend time with them. Just understand that sensitivity there, and as much as you can make it normal, make it normal. I'm selfish and don't train with anyone. Says Nick, I use it as a tool to fill my cup. Yep, I agree. I have too many other plates to spin. Yeah, I think that's important as well. Like this is for a lot of people, the gym is the only time where you can just separate yourself, right? Like for me, I like to work out and I listen to the same song the whole workout. Comment in here if you do that too. I literally pick one song and I listen to the same thing on repeat. That's why on my Spotify rap, like there's like one or two songs that are like 5,000 views. So Katie's shaking her head. So that time is you. Also, I will say though, remember this is not what you're saying. This is just a thought that I always bring up. There's always a difference between working out and training. Remember, we want to be effective in our training, right? So we want to go to the gym, get the job done, and leave. Now, I'm not saying take the fun out of it, treat the gym like work, but just find fulfillment in the results that you're getting and the effort you're putting in, rather than like, oh, I like being in the gym, so I'm gonna be there 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, which none of y'all are doing. But I just like to bring that little piece up. Okay. Super sweet. So I've been thinking about doing it, find the push I feel. Yeah. And again, sometimes working out with someone allows you, I will tell you this much. Sometimes I will take a step away from my workout to go work with someone else to learn. Also, again, I think this is great sometimes too. I mean, you train pretty damn hard, Caitlin, which is good. But sometimes there's another level. And you don't know that other level till you train with someone who trains harder. Because if you're always training, you can always tell yourself to stop in the middle of the set. You can always tell yourself this is enough. But sometimes it's good to train with someone else and be like, oh, damn, like this is failure. So there is some positives in that. If that ever happens, though, for not just you for asking this question, but anybody, if you want to go work out with a partner, like let us know, go work out with them. And we want to hear what happens after. What did you learn? Much hard did you push? Like, how much harder did you push versus them? Like maybe you did better than them. And it's like, oh, wow, I actually do train hard, right? So that feedback's important. All right. Every day. For the songs, Katie, yeah, sometimes it's every day. So I don't know.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
say, is it the same song every day or does it change like day to day? You just listen to it on repeat? Or is
I
it
think
like one song?
yeah, I think Chance and I are
He
like this.
starts
So
like
like
singing the song to himself because he knows it so
yeah,
much.
oh yeah, 100%. So like new music Fridays come out, and that's like our workouts for the week. So if only one banger comes out on a Friday, I'm gonna run that song until it's completely dry. So it could be the
I
same
second
song.
that.
Yeah, it could be the same song for multiple days. It sometimes they just hit. Cardi B right now for so that's funny. Um, Ladies, average cost for show expenses. Okay, I want to hear Katie's and Nick's because I want to know the Australian dollar on this one.
Okay, I'll go really quick. So suits can be really expensive, like 500 to 1,000 if you're going from one of the big vendors. If you message me, I can send you some Etsy shops that make really great suits for like 3 to 4, sometimes less. Makeup, you can probably use what you have. You might need a new foundation, but you can go to like Marshalls or something if you don't want to go crazy. Heels, about $100. Invest in good ones. Do the shoe fairy, in my opinion. Um, Jewelry, that's pretty cheap. You can get it pretty cheap on Amazon, like 20, $30. So those aren't expensive, but just be prepared for the actual show fees. That's going to be the big one. The suit and the show fees are the big ones. And tan. Tan is going to be like 150-ish probably. So
Yeah, and I'll
about
chime
a
in.
thousand is what I would set aside.
Yeah, before you go, Nick, just to talk on the show fee. So pay for an NPC registration card, which I think is now 175 or 195 for the year.
Yeah.
Shows are usually 100 to 150 per class, sometimes 75, depends on the state. You're in Texas, so it's going to be expensive. So you're looking at just 500 for entry, probably like 150 to 200 for tan. So yes, it's a lot of upfront costs for the show, and then you're factoring supplementation, all that. So, it could be a few grand ordeal. Great job, Katie. What you got, Nick? How much is it over there?
Can you guys hear me if I start talking? Is that good?
Yes.
Awesome. So our shows sound like they're similar dollar price. So ours would probably end up then being cheaper for you guys. But a suit for me is probably, I always get mine pre-loved because children, mum, separated, budget. I spend probably $300 to $400 on my suit. Heels, like $250 brand new. So I always get them brand new. Hair and makeup is usually around the $300 mark. Tan is $250. Registration's usually around the $500 mark. If you want photography and videography, that's going to hit
Good
you up
point.
like $1,000, so you can remember it. Like, who cares what you're wearing? If you don't have the pictures and the videos, it's like, did it happen? So yeah, they rope you in with the eye walk poses and all the videos and all that sort of stuff that you get at the end, and that's like good $1,000 to $1,500. So yeah, I don't know. And then you've got your coach fees on top of that. You've got all the stuff you got to take before that. Like, it's not just on the day; it's everything else incorporated in that as well. Like your gym membership, your gym outfits, your gym shoes you got to wear while you're training to get you to that point. So it's all like encompassing. It's thousands.
Yeah, it's an expensive sport, and then also keep in mind Nick's a pro, so her fees will be a little bit different. Her annual fee probably for her pro membership and stuff. But yeah, I always tell people like before you commit to a show, you want to have the finances in check and know that you can afford it because you don't want to think about that. But there are things that we could budget. For instance, like I think that the suit and the heels is probably not, but like doing your own makeup, I don't know, having someone who can do your hair. Again, I'm a guy. I compete as a guy. Yes, I coach a ton of women, but like Nick and Katie might have a better idea of like how important. I mean, again, depending on the class or division you're doing, the presentation matters, right? Where bikini, it matters more how you look rather than let's say physique, even though it does play a part. But they can talk more to maybe things that you can I don't want to say budget, but like make a little bit more makeshift than buying the best and the greatest. But
Yeah, my piece on that would be like, I always buy secondhand, get it dry clean. So buying secondhand really helps with the suits and stuff. Shoes you can also sometimes get secondhand really cheap. You've got to make sure that they're not going to fall apart on you depending on how many shows they've been through. So the last thing you want is to get on stage and find that your heels are busted. Hair and makeup you can do yourself. Tan is always a thing that I will always get done on the
yeah,
day at the show. But you can also, if you've got a really good, like if you've got not even necessarily a huge following, but if you've got a really good transformation story and you know people in the industry that have got like SUPs or anything like that, you can approach people and say, hey, I've got this story. I went from, 200 pounds down to where I'm at now. And would you sponsor my show? don't be afraid to ask people, because if you've got a great transformation, they see value and merit in what you have to offer with your transformation. They will often go, yeah, we'll give you $200 towards your registration fees or something like that. Like, never be afraid to ask. You can always ask.
Great. Maybe you can be a rocks athlete like Katie was, or Katie is.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just gonna say, reach out to Rocks because they love to do that. If anything, they might give you subs. They might give you a couple $100. It's worth it. Rocks is really great about that stuff, though. Um, yeah, I would reach out to them first for sure.
Just don't go to any of
I
your guys.
actually
Go ahead.
I actually do know quite a few of them actually. But the main reason why I was asking is just because I'm like completely new and I'm still debating on when I want to do my first show because I finally feel like it's more feasible for me now because I honestly never thought it was something that I could ever do. But the big thing for me is I'm not a makeup girl. I don't know how to do any of that shit.
Yeah, I wasn't either. You can pay for that one, but honestly, there's plenty of videos, and you are pretty far from camera, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Um, but you can always practice. I practice. I've done my own hair and makeup. I don't do makeup every day. I don't do my hair like ever. Um, but I practice and I figured it out, and it turned out okay. So maybe you can get some help. It is pretty expensive. I think it's like probably $300 for both, maybe if you do it, have them do it. But I think it's worth trying to invest in yourself and do it yourself. I was also going to say, I think the first thing you should buy is heels. That would be my first thing because you're going to need to learn to pose in them.
Yes.
Um, they're just good to have. They're going to be one of the cheaper things to buy. That's what I would get first.
And there is a difference. I cheaped out on my heels the first show I did, and I was like, how do women do this? How am I going to get through this show? They are so painful, and they really were. But please reach out to us individually because I found a brand that is incredible. They are. I could wear them all the time, and I always thought I can't do multiple shows because my feet are going to kill me. But there's ways you can do it. You put socks on underneath with a hairdryer, blow them out if they're not soft enough. But I found a brand that are soft on the plastic, and the foot, the sole itself is super soft. So yeah, you can get better brands than others. They do exist. So if they're killer heels, look into other brands.
Perfect. Thank you, ladies. And again, Kylie, you have access to everybody here, Katie and Nick included, not just to me. So please reach out to them. All right, moving forward. Yes, I don't like to talk to anybody, but we're all personable people. So just put your mean face on, Caitlin, and that's it. Yes, on the suits for Katie. When you work out at a gym that doesn't have the weights program in your schedule, good. Excellent question. This happens a lot. So if you have, for instance, you're working at your home gym straight for 3 months and you're used to those weights, you go to a new gym. What I want you all to understand, and this is why it's important to not just focus on the numbers, is you can still put on muscle and not do the same weight. So it's the proximity or how close you are to failure and how intense the workout is, right? So if you, for instance, do 100 pounds on a chest press at your gym's machine, and then you go to another gym that's a completely different machine and it's 140 pounds to get the same, or 20 pounds, whatever it is, right? You can still get the good workout. So that's why I say, like, do a couple warm-up sets and figure it out. So yes, do the closest to match what it feels like. Because remember, I had a client the other day ask me about this machine or this pulley is way different than someone else. She's trying to use the same weight, like it's set 100 versus 100, but the mechanics of the actual machine will be different. So don't just look at the number, go by the feel. Good question. Excellent question with that one. Yeah, go train with Rob. Yeah, that's hell no. Perfect. All right. Any other questions that someone has, you can put in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. These were excellent.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. So, for like a documentation standpoint, just so you guys can see, or a coach-facing document, how we document that shit in Trainerize. Do you just want us to put the same weight that we had on from like our most consistent gym or our most consistent machine? Because honestly, that's what I've been doing. I've been kind of just keeping the weight the same, like kind of like intensity matching. That way, when I go back to my home gym, I don't really have much of a variable there. But I'm not sure if that's what you prefer or not.
Good question. So for the most part, we have enough conversations, all of us with our clients, to kind of know like what equipment they have or don't have, or what they're working with. Like if, for instance, I did the Cybex hack the other day, and then an Arsenal hack squat. Like, if you tell me that's the exercise we did, I will say that the tracking is more for you, and it's not going to be so consistent to where, like, if I look today and I look 4 weeks ago, then I'm gonna be like, oh shit, I didn't look at I don't know what this is. That's number one. Number two is, again, me traveling all the time. I haven't worked out in the same gym for a month straight, and probably, I can't even remember how long. So I'm always trying to figure out what I'm doing. That's why free weights are so important, and there's usually going to be some free weights. I think for you specifically, I don't know that we have any free weight quad exercise. I don't think so, but that's why, at least for plate loaded and stuff like that, it's a good general idea. But I always say, like, if I only have, for instance, on my push days, I think like one or two work. So I have 4 different push days over 2 weeks with my coach. 2 of them have dumbbells, maybe even 3, but one of them has push-ups, for instance. If I'm progressing on the free weights or the push-ups, I know at the end of the day, like, even if the numbers are not the same on the pec deck or whatever, I'm progressing. So that's the fail safe at the end of the day. And that's why I try to look at exercises as close as I can to a free weighted exercises to know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, I will say the tracking is more so for you to see what you're doing. I specifically will look at a couple exercises and always look at those, and they're always going to be some of the more important. So, like, I'll look over bent over rows or chest supported rows, or I'll look over, hack squats and regular squats and RDLs and those pieces. Like, sure, I care about what you do in your calf press, right? But it's not really so important to me to gauge that progress. But, like, I know the back is getting stronger and bigger if I can see our form is improving or the same, and the weights and reps are going up.
Gotcha.
All right. What other questions we got? Brody, I know you just hopped in here. Do you have a question regarding anything? If not, no problem. I'm going to put this class up for you guys to watch later. But does anyone have any further questions? This was amazing. All right. Katie or Nick, do you guys have anything to add to the course, the class, or anything that we talked about? I have done a poor job of asking you guys at the end of class, but you guys have amazing things to say and cover a lot of the bases that I don't. So, Nick, we'll start with you. Do you have anything you want to add on any portion?
No, I think I'm really good. I think a lot of women do struggle with the thyroid issue, so it's a really good topic to touch on, because a lot of people don't know, and then they go and do the Google doctor and they look at it themselves, and like you say, they supplement with all these weird things and end up exacerbating the problem and making it worse, when really we probably just need to bring it down to basics, strip it back down, look at the essentials of what we're doing, look at our lifestyle habits, our sleeping, so important, the hydration piece, like everything that we usually harp on about. Just that's why it's super important. Just stripping everything back, starting from the base and going again, rather than adding extras on top of what we're already doing, which is just making the problem worse.
Beautiful. And I just want to add one thing real quick, Katie. Katie, you might be saying something similar. I don't want to say our job is simple, because it's not that it's simple, because really a lot of the solution that we provide is the accountability in the program piece. But ultimately, I through all of our years put together, Katie, Nick, and I'm sure we can say 99% of issues get resolved by eating and exercise and getting the body right. Like, if you're not overweight, you're eating correctly, and you're getting some sort of exercise, there's very little things that could go wrong. So ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what you're saying. So sorry, go ahead, Katie.
I was really just going to say exactly what Nick covered. I mean, our bodies were designed to use food and the nutrients at the most basic level. We don't need to add all these extras, and it's most of the time making things worse. I mentioned the laxative, the prebiotics, the probiotics, all these gut supplements. They're usually just taking your money, and they're probably not going to help. Good food, good whole food nutrients, consistent diet is what's going to do it.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, you guys covered it.
Yes. All right, team. Well, great class. I'll get this uploaded. Thank you all for joining. Again, if there's any further conversations you want to have with any of the coaches, please feel free to message us or expand in the group chat. Again, I'm more stable now, so we might be doing a class every week moving forward. So I'll be reaching out to see which one we'll do next. All right. See you later, guys.
Hey, Ian,
Yes.
before you go, wait, hold on.
Yes.
So does that mean that y'all don't recommend probiotics or anything to take?
Not if there's not a specific reason to be taking it, So remember, prebiotics are the food to feed the bacteria. Probiotics are the actual bacteria itself. And so if we're having an issue, like let's say we have an overgrowth of bacteria, I always use the bacterial vaginal example because the vagina and the gut are so close, right? There's different bacteria in the vagina and there's different bacteria in the gut. And sometimes there's some that are similar that are supposed to be there. But what happens is if you have an overgrowth in the gut that leaks into the vagina for bacteria that's not supposed to be there, or you have a lot of the same bacteria that starts to overgrow, that's where those issues come from. So what happens is if you're just taking probiotics, because I mentioned there's thousands of different bacteria in your body and millions and billions of those. So when you take probiotics, you're just selecting a few, but you don't know, are those the ones that are overgrowth? Are those the ones that we need? Are we feeding the wrong bacteria? So that's why I'm saying just arbitrarily taking them can actually cause problems. Unless you know, hey, specifically this bacteria I'm deficient in, this bacteria is overgrowth, or I need to feed or do this, I wouldn't be doing any of that. One
So
thing I would do is I would look at food though, like sauerkraut and fruits and veggies, etc., to help with the overall health of the bacteria. But I'm not going to specifically introduce a bacteria or feed a specific bacteria that I don't know is or is not causing a problem.
So, AKA, stop taking probiotics is what you're saying.
I would say yes, because again, we don't know. It could be a great probiotic. It could be a great supplement, and it could actually be fixing, but we don't know that, right? So it's like it's kind
Okay.
of like this. It's actually a perfect example, like for the thyroid. If I don't know that somebody has Hashimoto's or not, but they have their blood work is showing hypothyroidism, if I give someone selenium and iodine, I could actually kill them because
Oh,
they can test
fun.
yes. So that's why I asked, like, hey, did you get antibodies tested for this? Because I don't want to tell you to take iodine and then you have it, right? So it's the same thing with probiotics. Like, unless I know you
Yeah.
have
Please
it,
don't kill me.
yeah, no. So I would stop because it could be causing problems. You never know. You don't know. So
Okay.
I would say before we start to supplement something to know, it's also why when you look at your meal plans, the dosages that are recommended for your supplementation is at a very safe dose. That even if you were sufficient, it's not going to go overboard. But because a lot of people are not getting blood work right away, they're not giving us the information we need. So it's like I'm not going to overdo, but like vitamin D, for example. 5,000 IUs of vitamin D, if you're already sufficient of vitamin D, is not going to kill you. You can go up to supplementing 50,000. So I know if I give someone 5,000 IUs and they're always in the sun and they're getting the vitamin D, I'm not going to kill them until I get blood work that tells me, hey, yeah, okay, now we can kind of taper back or do a little bit more.
Gotcha.
What's the GI mapping? So it's you got to pay for it, but it's a test that essentially maps the bacteria, what and how much is in the gut. So like there's like H. pylori is a bacteria that's very common to cause a lot of issues if that's overgrowing or in places it's not supposed to. That's a big one, you guys. That's why the leaky gut and keeping things clean and all that is super important. If you have bacteria in one place that's not supposed to be in another, it could cause issues. So if you get a GI map done and it's like, oh, you have this bacteria in this area that's not supposed to be there, or you have too much of this bacteria, that's a very, very good indication that we have something we need to fix. All right, guys, I'm going to be popping off here with the team, and then we will chat soon.